The serving tray clattered from Elena's hands. She watched the crystal goblets tumble in slow motion, their contents arcing through the air like drops of blood. But the crash of glass against marble never came. Because the roar came first. It started deep in the palace foundations, a sound that bypassed her ears and went straight to her bones. Every wolf in the building would feel it, the Alpha King's rage, so massive it had physical weight. Elena's knees buckled. Her wolf, that broken thing inside her that hadn't stirred in 3 years, curled tighter into its protective ball of nothing. She needed to run. Now. But her legs wouldn't cooperate. The third roar was closer, accompanied by splintering wood and a scream that cut off too quickly. Elena finally moved, abandoning the tray, her hands shaking so badly she could barely grip her skirts as she ran. Wrong direction. She'd gone the wrong direction. The realization hit as she rounded the corner and saw the massive doors to the king's study hanging off their hinges. Inside, papers swirled like snow. A man in expensive robes lay unconscious against the far wall, his chest rising and falling in shallow gasps. Another advisor. That made 4 this month. Elena spun to flee, but her worn shoes, hand-me-downs from a beta maid who'd taken pity on her, betrayed her. Her ankle rolled. She stumbled forward instead of back, through those broken doors, into the path of the monster himself. King Lucian stood in the center of the destroyed room, and he was magnificent. And terrifying. His shirt hung in tatters, revealing a chest that heaved with each breath. His hands had shifted, caught between human and wolf, tipped with claws that had shredded the ancient oak desk into kindling. But it was his eyes that froze her blood. Pure molten gold, no white, no iris, just the beast staring out from a man's face. Those eyes locked on her. Elena did the only thing her body would allow. She dropped, assuming the submission pose she'd learned after her rejection. Forehead to the floor, arms extended, throat bared. The position of an omega accepting death from a superior wolf. "Please," she whispered, though she knew begging never helped. "Please, I'm sorry. I'll go. I'm going." The king's growl rattled her teeth. His footsteps shook the floor as he stalked toward her, each step deliberate. Predator approaching prey. She could smell him now, pine and smoke and something wild that made her broken wolf whimper. His shadow fell over her. Elena squeezed her eyes shut. "Look at me." His voice was barely human, scraped raw by the beast. She couldn't. If she looked, she'd see her death coming, and she was already so tired of being afraid. 3 years of being invisible, of keeping her head down, of surviving on scraps and sleeping in the servants' quarters where the roof leaked. 3 years since her mate, her fated mate, had looked at her with disgust and said the words that shattered her: "I, Marcus Blackwood, reject you, Elena Ashwood, as my mate and cast you from this pack." I said, "Look at me." The command slammed through her with alpha force. Her head jerked up against her will, and she met those burning gold eyes. He was crouched now, inches from her face. Close enough that she could see the veins of gold threading through the white blonde of his hair. Close enough to see the fine tremor in his half-shifted hands. "You." His voice cracked. "How did you get in here?" I'm sorry, Your Majesty." "I didn't mean," the words tumbled out in a rush. "I was bringing wine to the East Gallery and I ran the wrong way. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." He cocked his head, studying her like she was a puzzle. The gold in his eyes flickered, and for just a moment, she glimpsed blue underneath. Human color. Then the gold surged back. "Run," he said. Elena didn't need to be told twice. She scrambled to her feet, but her traitorous ankle gave out again. She fell forward, and her hands shot out instinctively to catch herself. Against his bare chest. The world stopped. Heat flooded through her palms, racing up her arms, spreading through her body like wildfire. But it wasn't painful. It was warm. Safe. Right. Her broken wolf uncurled just a fraction, lifting its head for the first time in 3 years. No. Not possible. King Lucian had gone utterly still beneath her touch. The tremor in his hands stopped. His breathing, which had been coming in ragged gasps, evened out. And his eyes, those terrible golden eyes, flickered rapidly between gold and blue before settling on a shade of sky blue so pure it hurt to look at. He stared at her hands on his chest like they were made of starlight. What? He swallowed hard. What did you do? Elena yanked her hands back as if burned. Nothing. I didn't, I'm sorry. But he caught her wrists before she could pull away completely. His grip was gentle, careful, as if she were made of glass. The gold threatened to surge back into his eyes, and she felt the tremor start again in his hands. Then he shifted his grip, skin to skin, and it stopped. The gold receded. His expression was pure shock. It's you, he whispered. You're Lucian. A woman's voice rang through the destroyed study, sharp with authority. Step away from that servant. Now. Lady Seraphina stood in the doorway, resplendent in silver and white, her dark hair swept into an elegant knot. She was everything Elena wasn't, tall, powerful, beautiful. An alpha female in her prime, and the king's chosen betrothed. King Lucian dropped Elena's wrists and stood, putting himself between them. The movement was instinctive, protective. Lady Seraphina's eyes narrowed. My lady, the king said, his voice still rough but human now. This isn't what I think. Seraphina stepped over the broken door, her heels clicking against marble. It looks like you're allowing a lowly Omega to put her hands on you. The same Omega touch that's forbidden in your presence because it triggers your episodes. Her gaze cut to Elena like a knife. Who gave you permission to touch the king? She didn't, Lucian started. I fell, Elena said quickly, keeping her eyes on the floor. I touched him by accident, Your Grace. I'm sorry. Sorry. Seraphina's laugh was cold. You're sorry. Do you know how many wolves have died because they touched the king during an episode? Guards. Advisors. His own cousin. She took another step closer. You should be executed for your carelessness. Seraphina, enough. The king's voice carried command now, fully human. She calmed it. The rage. When she touched me, it stopped. The silence that followed was absolute. Seraphina stared at him. That's not possible. I know. He looked at his hands, flexing his fingers as if testing them. But it happened. For the first time in 3 years, the beast simply retreated. Impossible, Seraphina repeated, but Elena heard the edge of fear beneath the word. I'm your betrothed. Your mate bond is with me. If anyone's touch could calm you, it would be mine. You know your touch makes it worse. The words hung in the air like an accusation. Seraphina's face flushed with anger and humiliation. Her eyes cut to Elena again, and this time there was pure hatred in them. What's your name, Omega? Elena's throat felt like sand. Elena, Your Grace. Elena Ashwood. Ashwood. Seraphina's lip curled. The rejected one. I've heard about you. Marcus Blackwood's cast off. She looked at Lucian. This is the solution you're considering? A broken Omega who couldn't even keep her fated mate? The words struck like physical blows. Elena felt her wolf curl back into its ball, retreating from the pain. Yes. She was broken. She was rejected. She was nothing. That's enough. Lucian's voice dropped to a growl. You forget yourself, my lady. I forget myself? Seraphina's power flared, pressing against the room. I've stood by you through this curse. I've endured your episodes, your rage, the rumors that you're going feral. I've sacrificed my own comfort. And I'm grateful. Lucian cut her off. But gratitude doesn't change what just happened. This girl's touch calmed the beast when nothing else has worked. Not the healer's medicines. Not the old magic. Not you. The last two words were quiet, but they landed like stones. Seraphina's face went white, then red. So what? You'll keep her as your pet? Your emotional support, Omega? She spat the last word like a curse. The council will never allow it. The pack will see it as weakness. The pack will see their king in control again. Lucian's voice was firm now, decided. He looked at Elena, who was still frozen on the floor, and something flickered across his face. Not quite kindness, but not cruelty either. Rise, Elena Ashwood. She obeyed on shaking legs. I need you to stay in the palace, he said. Close to me. Until we understand what's happening. Your Majesty, Elena's voice failed. Stay close to him? To an Alpha King known for his violent rages? To a man who killed his own cousin during an episode? But as she looked at him, she caught his scent again. Pine and smoke and wild places. And her wolf, that broken, dormant thing, stirred. Lifted its head. Whined softly. No. It couldn't be. She was rejected. Her mate bond was severed. She was broken, empty, nothing. So why did her wolf recognize him? That's not a request, Lucian said softly. You'll be given quarters near mine. Food, clothes, whatever you need. But you don't leave the palace without my permission. Prison. He was making her a prisoner. Elena's hands clenched at her sides. And if I refuse? His eyes flashed gold for just a moment. Then I'll have no choice but to go feral within the month, and thousands will die when I lose control completely. Including you. The weight of it settled on her shoulders like chains. No choice. She'd never had a choice. Yes, Your Majesty, she whispered. Seraphina made a sound of disgust and turned on her heel, her power snapping like a whip as she left. Lucian watched her go, something sad crossing his face. Then he looked back at Elena. I'm sorry, he said, and he almost sounded like he meant it. But I can't let you go. Not when you're the first hope I've had in 3 years. Elena said nothing. She just stood there, feeling her broken wolf stir again at his nearness, and wondered what fresh hell she'd stumbled into. Wanting to see what would happen next, subscribe to this channel to get to listen to more of our upcoming exciting stories. Click on the subscribe button now. Thank you. Chapter 2. The chambers were too beautiful to be a prison. Elena stood in the center of rooms that were larger than the entire servants' quarters, watching dust motes dance in afternoon sunlight that streamed through windows overlooking the rose gardens. The bed was a massive four-poster draped in silk the color of cream. There was a sitting area with velvet chairs, a writing desk of polished oak, and a wardrobe that stood open to reveal dresses she'd never dare touch. This couldn't be for her. The king ordered everything prepared before dawn, said the maid who'd escorted her, Iris, a beta with kind eyes who'd sometimes slipped Elena extra bread in the kitchens. Now those kind eyes held something else. Wariness. He was very specific about your comfort. Elena heard what Iris didn't say. The king has never been specific about anyone's comfort before. These were Lady Catherine's rooms, Iris continued, smoothing a hand over the bedspread. The king's younger sister. Before she married and moved to the Northern Territories. She paused. They share a connecting door with His Majesty's chambers. Of course they did. Elena's stomach twisted. She walked to the windows, needing air, needing space, needing to not think about being separated from the volatile Alpha King by a single door. The entire palace is talking, Iris said quietly. About you. About what happened in the study. Let them talk. Elena pressed her forehead against the cool glass. Below, gardeners tended the roses, their movements peaceful and ordinary. She longed for that simplicity. They'll find something else to gossip about soon enough. Will they? Iris moved closer, lowering her voice. Elena, you touched the king during an episode and lived. Do you understand how impossible that is? Lord Raymond, the king's cousin, tried to restrain him during a rage last year. They found pieces of him scattered across the training grounds. Elena's hand started shaking. She pressed them flat against the window. I didn't have a choice. I fell. And now you're here. In chambers reserved for royal family. With a wardrobe full of dresses that cost more than most servants earn in a lifetime. Iris's reflection appeared in the glass beside her. Be careful, Elena. The higher you rise, the farther you have to fall. And there are people in this palace who will happily push. Before Elena could respond, a sharp knock interrupted them. Iris opened the door to reveal a woman in the crisp uniform of the head housekeeper, Mrs. Thornbury, whose disapproval was legendary in the servants' quarters. You. Mrs. Thornbury's gaze raked over Elena like she was dirt on the floor. The king requires your presence in his private study. Immediately. Iris squeezed Elena's arm once, a gesture of support, before slipping out. Elena was left alone with Mrs. Thornbury's cold stare. I suppose you think you're special now, the older woman said as they walked through corridors Elena had only ever cleaned. But I've seen girls like you before. Pretty little things who catch a powerful man's eye. It never ends well. Elena kept her gaze down, her hands clasped in front of her. She knew better than to argue. I don't think I'm special, ma'am. Good. Because you're not. Mrs. Thornbury stopped outside a heavy oak door. His Majesty is inside. Try not to make a fool of yourself. She knocked twice and left without waiting for an answer. Elena stood frozen outside the door, her heart hammering. Every instinct screamed at her to run. But where would she go? Back to her birth pack, where her sister now ruled as Luna beside the mate who'd rejected Elena? To the streets, where rejected Omegas were lucky to survive a week? No. This cage might be gilded, but it was still better than the alternatives. She knocked softly and entered. King Lucian stood by the windows, bathed in the same golden light that had filled her chambers. Without the rage twisting his features, he was heartbreakingly handsome, all sharp angles and lean muscle, his white blonde hair catching the sun. He'd changed into fresh clothes, a simple white shirt and dark trousers that somehow made him look more dangerous than his royal regalia ever could. He turned as she entered, and she saw the exhaustion in his face. Dark circles shadowed his eyes. His shoulders, though broad, carried a weight she recognized. The weight of someone barely holding on. Elena. Her name and his voice sent an unwanted shiver through her. Thank you for coming. As if she'd had a choice. Your Majesty. She dropped into a curtsy, keeping her eyes respectfully lowered. Please, don't. His voice was rough. I'm not. I don't want you to be afraid of me. That startled her enough to look up. His expression was almost pleading. I know what the stories say, he continued. I know what I've done during the episodes. The people I've hurt. He turned back to the window, his jaw tight. But I need you to understand something. Before this curse, this poisoning, whatever it is, I wasn't a monster. I was just a man trying to be a good king. Elena didn't know what to say to that. She'd heard the stories too. The Alpha King who'd once been known for his fairness, his strategic mind, his genuine care for his people. Then, 3 years ago, the episodes had started. Slowly at first, then escalating until he was a danger to everyone around him. Why am I here? She asked quietly. Because you're the first person in 3 years whose touch doesn't make it worse. He looked at his hands. The healers have tried everything. Potions, spells, bloodletting. The old magic users came from the mountains. Nothing worked. Every day, I feel it getting stronger, the rage, the beast trying to take over completely. I can feel myself slipping away. There was such raw vulnerability in his voice that Elena's chest ached. She knew that feeling. That sense of losing yourself piece by piece. Your wolf is defective, Marcus had said on what should have been their mating ceremony day. The entire pack had gathered in the sacred grove, flowers woven through the trees, her mother crying happy tears. Elena had worn her grandmother's mating dress, white lace that had been carefully preserved for generations. She'd been so happy, so sure that Marcus loved her despite her Omega status. What are you talking about? She'd laughed, thinking it was nerves. Everyone got nervous before the ceremony. But Marcus hadn't been laughing. He'd stood there in his ceremonial robes, his hand outstretched not to take hers, but to gesture to the crowd. To her sister, Lydia, who stood among the guests in a dress of pale blue. Your wolf is damaged, Marcus had said, loud enough for everyone to hear. The pack healer confirmed it. You can't bear children, Elena. Your Omega wolf is broken, probably from your mother's difficult pregnancy. You're infertile. The word had echoed through the grove. Infertile. Defective. Broken. The pack needs heirs, Marcus had continued, his voice taking on the formal cadence of rejection. Strong heirs. You cannot give me that. But your sister. He'd turned to Lydia, his expression softening in a way it never had for Elena. Lydia's wolf is perfect. Strong. Fertile. She will give me many children. Marcus, please, Elena had reached for him, but he'd stepped back like her touch burned. I, Marcus Blackwood, future alpha of the Ashwood pack, reject you, Elena Ashwood, as my mate. I cast you from this pack and choose another in your place. The bond had snapped like a physical thing breaking inside her chest. Elena had collapsed, the pain so intense she'd thought she was dying. Maybe she had died, in a way. The girl who'd believed in love and fated mates had certainly ceased to exist. Her sister had stepped forward then, her face a careful mask of sympathy that didn't quite hide the triumph in her eyes. I'm so sorry, Elena, Lydia had whispered. But the pack must come first. The pack had voted that evening. Unanimous decision to exile the defective Omega and accept Lydia as their future Luna. Elena's own parents hadn't argued. They just looked at her with disappointment and a terrible kind of relief that they'd have one daughter in a position of power. She'd left the Ashwood territory that night with nothing but the clothes on her back and a wolf that had curled into a ball and refused to move. For 3 years, that wolf had been silent. Dormant. Dead. Until yesterday, when she'd touched the Alpha King. Elena? Lucian's voice pulled her back to the present. He was watching her with concern. Are you all right? Fine, she lied. I was just thinking about how to escape. A wry smile touched his lips. I wouldn't blame you. This situation is impossible. It is, she agreed. But we both seem to be trapped in it. Something flickered in his eyes, surprise, maybe, or respect. Yes. We are. He moved closer, and Elena's wolf stirred, lifting its head. I need to ask something of you. The Royal Council meets tonight. A formal dinner with all the high-ranking nobles. I need you there. As your servant? Elena frowned. Your Majesty, that's not appropriate. As my personal attendant, he corrected. Standing behind my chair, close enough to. He hesitated, and she saw color rise in his cheeks. Close enough to touch me if needed. Oh. Oh no. Everyone will see, she said. I know. They'll talk. You're betrothed. I know, he repeated, his voice harder now. But the alternative is that I lose control in front of the entire council and slaughter half the nobility before the guards can stop me. Would you prefer that? Put like that, she had no argument. Fine, Elena said. But I need to understand something, Your Majesty. What happens when you no longer need me? When the healers find another cure, or when you... She couldn't finish the thought. When you take your mate to bed and complete your bond with Lady Seraphina. Then you'll be free to go, Lucian said quietly. With enough gold to start a new life anywhere you choose. I promise you that. It was a generous offer. More than she'd dared hope for. So why did her wolf whimper at the thought of leaving? The formal dining hall glittered like a dragon's hoard. Chandeliers dripped crystal tears over a table that could seat 50. Gold plate caught the candlelight. Nobles dripped jewels and silk in the casual arrogance of people who'd never gone hungry a day in their lives. Elena stood behind the king's chair in a dress Iris had insisted she wear, deep green velvet that made her feel like an imposter. Every eye in the room tracked her movements. Some held curiosity. Others, disdain. Lady Seraphina's held murder. The rejected Omega plays servant to her betters, murmured Lady Cordelia, an alpha female seated 3 chairs down. Her voice carried. How appropriate. Soft laughter rippled down the table. Elena kept her expression neutral, her hands clasped behind her back. She'd endured worse than words. But then Lady Cordelia continued. I heard Marcus Blackwood rejected her on their mating day. Couldn't even consummate the bond. Apparently one look at her naked and his wolf recoiled in disgust. That wasn't true. None of it was true. But it didn't matter. The lie spread down the table like poison, each retelling more cruel than the last. Elena felt heat rise in her cheeks. Her hands trembled. She focused on a spot on the wall and tried to breathe. Then Lucian went very, very still. She felt it before she saw it, the shift in the air, the way his scent sharpened. His hand, resting on the table, began to shake. The gold crept into his eyes like spilled wine. No. Not here. Not in front of everyone. Your Majesty, she whispered, leaning forward slightly. Would you like more wine? His breathing had quickened. Under the table, she saw his other hand had shifted, claws emerging. Any second now, he'd lose control completely. Elena made a decision. She reached under the table and found his hand, lacing her fingers through his despite the claws. His skin was fever-hot against hers. She felt the exact moment her touch registered, his whole body jerked, then went still. The gold in his eyes flickered. The claws retracted. But the damage was done. Lord Brennan, seated across from them, had gone pale. Did she just touch the king? Silence fell like a blade. Lady Seraphina rose slowly, her chair scraping against marble. How dare you? Her voice was silk over steel. You forget yourself, Omega. Remove your hand from the king immediately. Elena tried to pull away, but Lucian's hand tightened around hers. His thumb traced her knuckles in a gesture that was far too intimate for public display. She stays, he said quietly. His voice was steady now, human. And I suggest you all remember that Elena is under my personal protection. Any insult to her is an insult to me. The threat hung in the air. Lady Cordelia had gone white. Your Majesty, I didn't mean. Leave us. Lucian's command cracked like a whip. All of you. Dinner is over. The nobles fled. Even Seraphina, though she paused at the door to look back at Elena with eyes full of promised retribution. When they were alone, Lucian finally released Elena's hand. She stumbled back, her heart racing. That was foolish, he said, but there was no anger in his voice. You shouldn't have touched me in front of them. You were about to kill them all, Elena shot back. What was I supposed to do? Let me. His smile was bitter. Let me be the monster they all think I am. You're not a monster. The words were out before she could stop them. Lucian stared at her like she'd spoken in tongues. You don't know what I've done. I know you're trying not to do it again. Elena wrapped her arms around herself. That's more than most people manage. Before he could respond, the doors burst open. A man in healer's robes rushed in, his face flushed with excitement and fear. Your Majesty, I must speak with you. Immediately. It's about your condition. Lucian straightened. What is it, Castellan? The healer's eyes darted to Elena, then back to the king. Perhaps we should speak privately. Anything you have to say, you can say in front of Elena. Lucian's tone brooked no argument. Castellan swallowed hard. Your Majesty, I've been testing your blood samples from before and after the Omega's touch. The results are, they're impossible. Explain. You're not cursed. Castellan's hands shook as he pulled papers from his satchel. You've been poisoned. Slowly, methodically, over the course of 3 years. A rare compound from the eastern mountains, it mimics a rage curse perfectly, which is why we never suspected. It accumulates in the system, driving the victim slowly mad. The world tilted. Poisoned? Lucian's voice was deadly soft. By whom? I don't know yet. But Your Majesty. Castellan looked at Elena with something like awe. The Omega isn't just calming you. Her touch is neutralizing the poison. Somehow, her skin contact breaks down the compounds. Every time she touches you, you heal a little more. Elena's knees went weak. She grabbed the back of a chair for support. That's why the episodes worsen when she's not near, Castellan continued. The poison continues to build. But with regular contact. He shook his head in wonder. With regular contact, you might fully recover. Whoever did this to you, they didn't account for her. Lucian turned to Elena, and the expression on his face stole her breath. Not just relief, but something rawer. More desperate. You're not just my cure, he said. You're keeping me alive. And there, in the silence that followed, Elena felt her wolf rise fully for the first time in 3 years. Felt it press against her skin, wanting out, wanting him with an intensity that terrified her. Because she knew what this meant. Her wolf wasn't broken. Her wolf wasn't defective. Her wolf had just been waiting for the right alpha. The pain hit her then, sudden and vicious, a cramping deep in her abdomen that made her gasp. Heat flooded through her body, and she realized with horror what was happening. Impossible. It couldn't be. She'd been rejected. Her heat cycles had stopped 3 years ago. But there was no mistaking the symptoms, the fever, the ache, the way her body suddenly craved an alpha's touch with a desperation that bordered on madness. Elena? Lucian moved toward her, concern etched on his face. What's wrong? Nothing, she gasped, backing away. If he came closer, if he scented what was happening. I need to go. Please. I need. Another cramp doubled her over. Lucian caught her before she fell, and the moment his hands touched her bare arms, she felt her body respond. Want. Need. His pupils dilated. His nostrils flared. He knew. You're in heat, he said, his voice dropping to a growl that made her wolf keen. How is that possible? I don't know. Elena tried to pull away, but her legs wouldn't hold her. Please, just let me go to my chambers. I'll lock the door. I'll stay away from you. Elena. He lifted her easily, cradling her against his chest. You don't understand. If you're in heat, every unmated alpha in this palace will scent it. They'll come for you. Terror cut through the heat haze. He was right. An Omega in heat was vulnerable, and a rejected Omega with no pack protection might as well be prey. What do I do? She whispered. Lucian's arms tightened around her, and she felt the tremor that ran through him. When he spoke, his voice was strained with the effort of control. You stay with me, he said. In my chambers, where I can protect you. And we pray to every god that exists that I can keep my beast under control while you smell like everything it's ever wanted. He carried her through the corridors as Elena's vision blurred with pain and need, and she realized with absolute clarity that she'd just gone from one kind of prison to another. This one infinitely more dangerous than the first. Wanting to see what would happen next, subscribe to this channel to get to listen to more of our upcoming exciting stories. Click on the subscribe button now. Thank you. Chapter 3. The king's chambers were nothing like Elena had imagined. She'd expected opulence, cold grandeur, the trappings of absolute power. Instead, she found a soldier's room, functional, spare, with weapons mounted on walls and maps spread across every surface. The bed was large but simple. The furniture was worn. The only luxury was a wall of books that stretched from floor to ceiling. It was the room of a man who'd forgotten how to be anything but a king. Lucian laid her carefully on a settee near the fire, then moved away so quickly he might have been burned. He stood with his back to her, his hands braced against the mantel, every line of his body rigid with control. "The heat will last 3 days," he said, his voice rough. "Maybe 4, since it's your first in years. Castellan is preparing suppressants, but they'll only dull the edge. They won't stop it." Elena curled into herself, shaking. The pain came in waves now, each one stronger than the last. Her skin felt too tight. Her wolf paced restlessly beneath her skin, confused and wanting. "Why is this happening?" she whispered. "I was rejected. The bond was severed. I should never have another heat cycle. I don't know." Lucian's shoulders tensed. "But Castellan thinks, he thinks your wolf might be trying to form a new bond." The words hung in the air like a confession. "No. That was impossible. You only got one fated mate. One chance. Marcus had rejected her, and that should have been the end of it. Her wolf should have stayed dormant forever. Unless Marcus had never been her fated mate at all." "Don't," Elena said, because she could see where his thoughts were going. "Don't say it. Don't even think it. Elena. I won't be some convenient replacement for Lady Seraphina." She forced herself to sit up despite the pain. "I won't be used as a broodmare because my body decides to malfunction at the worst possible time." Lucian turned then, and the look in his eyes made her breath catch. It wasn't pity. It was understanding, edged with his own kind of pain. "Is that what you think?" he asked quietly. "That I'd use you like that? Isn't it? You need me to stay alive. You need my touch to neutralize the poison. And now, conveniently, my wolf decides I'm capable of breeding after all." She laughed bitterly. "I'm sure the council would love that. The cursed king and his defective Omega, producing heirs to secure the throne." "Stop." He crossed the room in 3 strides and dropped to his knees in front of her, his hands hovering near hers but not touching. "You are not defective. You were never defective. And I would never," his jaw clenched. "I would never take advantage of your heat. Even if it kills me to resist." The sincerity in his voice pierced through her defenses. Elena looked at him, really looked at him. Saw the exhaustion, the fear, the desperate control he was exerting over his own wolf. "I'm sorry," she said. "I know you're not Marcus." "Who's Marcus?" Then understanding dawned. "Your mate. The one who rejected you." "Former mate," Elena corrected. "And yes. He was the alpha heir of my birth pack. We were supposed to be fated mates. The pack healer confirmed it when I was 16. She wrapped her arms around herself. "On our mating ceremony day, in front of everyone, he rejected me. Said my wolf was defective. That I couldn't have children. He chose my sister instead." Lucian's eyes flashed gold. "He rejected you publicly?" "The pack voted to exile me that night. My own parents didn't argue." She smiled without humor. "I left with nothing. Wandered for weeks before I made it here and managed to get hired on as a servant. The pay was terrible, but at least I was safe from rogues." "Safe," Lucian repeated. "You call sleeping in servants' quarters and scrubbing floors safe?" "Safer than the alternative." He studied her for a long moment, something working behind his eyes. "What was your pack's territory?" "The Ashwood Lands. Northwest border, near the mountain passes." "Why?" Lucian went very still. "The northwest border. Near Falcon's Ridge?" "Yes, that's the closest landmark. The mating ceremony was supposed to take place in the sacred grove just below the ridge. Elena frowned. Why? But Lucian had stood, pacing now, his hand running through his hair. 3 years ago. It was 3 years ago, wasn't it? Your rejection? Yes, but I was there. His voice was barely audible. Gods, I was there. I'd gone to the northwest border to negotiate a treaty with the Ashwood Pack. Your father, the Alpha, he was supposed to meet me, but he sent word that his heir's mating ceremony took precedence. I was annoyed, so I decided to attend. To make a point about priorities. Elena's heart hammered. You were at my rejection ceremony? No. I arrived late, after it was over. The grove was empty except for. He turned to face her, his expression stunned. Except for a wolf. A small white wolf with silver markings, collapsed in the center of the ceremonial circle. She was dying, I could feel it. The bond's severance had nearly killed her. Oh gods. Elena remembered. She'd shifted after the rejection, unable to hold her human form through the pain. She'd stayed in the grove for hours, too broken to move. I tried to help, Lucian continued. I shifted and approached her, but she just stared at me with these eyes, amber, like honey in sunlight. She wasn't afraid. She just looked, lost. Then she closed her eyes, and I thought she'd died. I wanted to, Elena whispered. I wanted to die right there. But you didn't. Because suddenly she started to glow, just for a moment. Silver light surrounded her, and I felt something in my chest shift. Like recognition. Like my wolf knew her. He shook his head. Then she vanished. I searched the grove, but she was gone. I assumed she'd died and I'd witnessed her spirit passing. I didn't die. I just ran. Elena remembered that night in fragments. The pain. The darkness. The sense that something had touched her wolf, given it just enough strength to flee. I don't remember seeing you. You were barely conscious. But Elena. He moved closer, his eyes intense. That same night, I returned to my camp at the border. My advisors had prepared dinner. I ate with them, drank wine, went to bed feeling fine. And woke up 3 hours later trying to murder my own guards. It was my first episode. The room went cold. The same night, Elena said slowly. Your first episode was the same night as my rejection. The same night I found your wolf dying in that grove. Lucian's hands clenched. It can't be coincidence. Before Elena could respond, a sharp knock interrupted them. Castellan entered, carrying a tray of vials filled with silver liquid. The suppressants, Your Majesty. He set the tray down, his expression grave. But I must warn you, given the unusual circumstances of the Omega's heat, I can't guarantee their effectiveness. Unusual circumstances? Lucian asked. Her heat shouldn't be possible at all. Castellan looked at Elena with clinical curiosity. A severed mate bond causes permanent infertility in Omegas. It's biological fact. Yet her heat is one of the strongest I've encountered in decades of practice. Meaning what? Meaning either the bond wasn't truly severed. Castellan paused. Or it was never the right bond to begin with. Elena's wolf stirred at those words, pressing against her skin. She felt its agreement like a physical sensation. Wrong mate, her wolf seemed to whisper. Always wrong. That's impossible, Elena said, but her voice lacked conviction. Is it? Castellan handed her a vial. Drink this. It will help with the pain, if nothing else. Elena downed the suppressant. It tasted like metal and ash, and burned going down. Almost immediately, the worst of the pain receded to a dull ache. Rest tonight, Castellan instructed. Both of you. I'll post guards outside to ensure no unmated alphas approach. And Your Majesty? He fixed Lucian with a stern look. Try not to complete the mate bond in a heat haze. The council would have words about the impropriety. Castellan. I'm old, not blind. I can see what's happening between you. The healer gathered his supplies. Just, be careful. Both of you. Someone poisoned the king and orchestrated the Omega's rejection, all on the same night, 3 years ago. They're still out there. And they won't be pleased to see their plans unraveling. He left, and Elena and Lucian stared at each other across the room. You should sleep, Lucian said finally. Take the bed. I'll stay out here. This is your room. And you're in heat and in pain. Take the bed, Elena. That's an order. She was too exhausted to argue. She stumbled to the massive bed and collapsed onto it, still fully dressed. The sheets smelled like him, pine and smoke and wild places. Her wolf sighed in contentment. Elena closed her eyes and tried not to think about how right it felt to be surrounded by his scent. She dreamed of the grove. But it was different this time. She wasn't alone. A massive white wolf stood across from her, larger than any wolf should be, with eyes of burning blue. The Alpha King's wolf. I know you, his wolf seemed to say without words. I've always known you. That's impossible, Elena's wolf replied. We only met yesterday. No. The white wolf moved closer. We met in the darkness. When you were dying. I gave you my strength. Why? Because you're mine. Elena woke with a gasp, her body covered in sweat. Dawn light filtered through the windows. She was alone in the bed, but she could hear movement in the outer chamber. She found Lucian at his desk, surrounded by papers and maps. He'd changed into fighting leathers, and there were fresh bruises on his knuckles. You've been training, she said. He looked up, and she saw the same exhaustion in his face that she felt. Couldn't sleep. Too many thoughts. He gestured to the papers. I've been going through records from 3 years ago. Guest lists, travel logs, anyone who was near the northwest border the night of your rejection ceremony. And 43 people from this court attended or were traveling through the region that week. He pulled out a specific page. Including Lady Seraphina, Lord Brennan, and half the Royal Council. Elena moved closer, studying the list. Her eyes caught on one name, and her blood ran cold. Marcus Blackwood, she read. But that doesn't make sense. He was at the ceremony. He rejected me. He was there earlier in the day, yes. But according to the travel logs, he left the Ashwood territory that afternoon, before the ceremony, and traveled to a tavern just outside the border. Where he met with someone from my court. Who? The logs don't say. Just that he requested a private room and stayed for 3 hours. Then he returned to the grove just in time for the rejection ceremony. Lucian's jaw was tight. He was gone during the exact window when my dinner was being prepared. When the poison could have been administered. A knock interrupted them. This time, it was Captain Wolf, the head of the King's Guard, a grizzled beta with more scars than hair. Your Majesty, we have a situation. A delegation from the Ashwood Pack has arrived, requesting an audience. Elena's stomach dropped. The Ashwood Pack? Lucian's eyes cut to her. Your birth pack? Marcus, she whispered. He's here. He's not alone, Captain Wolf said grimly. He's brought his mate. And she's heavily pregnant. Lydia. Her sister was here, carrying the children that should have been Elena's. The children Marcus had said Elena could never give him. They claim they're seeking a political alliance, the captain continued. But Your Majesty, there's something you should know. When we searched them at the gates, we found something concerning. He pulled a vial from his pocket. Dark liquid swirled inside. The Alpha had this hidden in his belongings. Castellan confirmed it's the same compound used to poison you. The room went silent. Lucian stood slowly, his eyes flashing gold. Is that so? There's more. Captain Wolf looked uncomfortable. The pregnant female recognized the Omega. Caused quite a scene, actually. Demanded to know why her sister was wearing fine clothes and standing in the palace. Said Elena was supposed to be dead. Dead? Elena's voice came out strangled. Her exact words were, "That's impossible." Marcus said she'd never survive the rejection. He promised me she'd be gone. Promised. Marcus had promised Lydia that Elena would die. Bring them to the throne room, Lucian said, his voice deadly calm. All of them. And Captain? Have your best fighters ready. This is about to get bloody. Elena stood behind the throne, her heart in her throat, as Marcus Blackwood entered the room. He looked exactly as she remembered, tall, dark-haired, with the kind of classical handsomeness that made Omegas swoon. But now she could see the cruelty in his eyes, the calculation in his smile. Lydia walked beside him, one hand on her swollen belly. She'd always been beautiful, but pregnancy had made her radiant. She looked every inch the perfect Luna. Until she saw Elena. Her face went white, then red. You, she hissed. What are you doing here? Lady Lydia, Lucian said from the throne, his voice dripping ice. You forget yourself. Elena is under my personal protection. You will address her with respect, or you will leave. Marcus's eyes had gone wide. He stared at Elena like she was a ghost. How, you survived? Disappointed? Elena asked, finding her voice. Sorry to ruin your plans. Plans? Marcus's expression shifted, becoming guarded. I don't know what you mean. Don't you? Lucian leaned forward. Let's talk about 3 years ago. The night you rejected your mate. The same night I was poisoned. The same night you met with someone from my court in a tavern outside your territory. The color drained from Marcus's face. I want a name, Lucian continued. Who did you meet? Who paid you to reject Elena? I don't. Don't lie. Gold bled into Lucian's eyes. I can smell lies, and right now, you reek of them. Who? Paid. You? Marcus's resistance crumbled. I don't know their name. They wore a hood, kept their face hidden. But they knew things, about my pack, about our finances, about the gambling debts my father had hidden from the council. He was sweating now. They offered me enough gold to save the pack from bankruptcy. All I had to do was reject Elena publicly and choose her sister instead. Why? Elena stepped forward, her voice shaking. Why me specifically? They said you were meant for another. That if I completed the mate bond with you, it would bring disaster to my pack. That you'd doom us all. Marcus looked at her with something that might have been regret. I was young. Stupid. I believed them. And the poison? Lucian's voice was soft. Dangerous. Did you deliver that too? No. I swear. Marcus held up his hands. They just asked me to reject Elena. That's all. I didn't know anything about poisoning the king until... He stopped, his face going gray. Until what? Lucian stood from the throne. Until tonight, Marcus whispered. When they contacted me again. Told me to bring the poison to court. Said it was time to finish what we started 3 years ago. They promised me the Northwestern Territories if I succeeded. A seat on your council. Who contacted you? Lucian was down the steps now, stalking toward Marcus. Who is they? I'm telling you, I don't know. They used messenger wolves, anonymous drop points. Marcus backed away, fear finally breaking through. Please, Your Majesty. I'm just a pawn. But I can help you. I remember their scent. From that night 3 years ago, I remember what they smelled like. Lucian grabbed Marcus by the throat, lifting him off his feet. What did they smell like? Lavender, Marcus choked out. lavender and steel. And what? Marcus's eyes met Elena's, full of terror and realization. They smelled like you, Your Majesty. Like your bloodline. Like royalty. Lucian dropped him. Marcus crumpled to the ground, gasping. Impossible, Lucian said. My family wouldn't. But Elena was remembering Castellan's words, someone at court. Someone who knew exactly how to poison you without detection. And Lady Seraphina's reaction yesterday, when she'd watched Elena calm the king, impossible. I'm your betrothed. If anyone's touch could calm you, it would be mine. Unless Seraphina had known it wouldn't work. Unless she'd been counting on it. Your Majesty, Elena said quietly. Where is Lady Seraphina now? Lucian's head snapped up. She's... He looked at Captain Wolf. She requested permission to visit her family estate this morning, the captain said. Said she needed to clear her head after last night's incident. What time did she leave? An hour ago. Right after the Ashwood delegation arrived. Lucian and Elena locked eyes, and she saw her own realization reflected in his face. Seraphina had orchestrated everything. The rejection. The poisoning. All of it. But before Lucian could give orders, a massive explosion rocked the palace. The windows shattered. Stone rained from the ceiling. Somewhere in the distance, people screamed. Captain Wolf was already running. The West Wing. Something hit the West Wing. That's where my chambers are, Lucian said. That's where everyone thinks Elena should be. They weren't trying to kill him this time. They were trying to kill her. Lucian's eyes met hers, blazing gold and full of fury. Get her to the safe room. Now. And someone send riders after Seraphina. I want her brought back in chains. As the guards surrounded Elena, dragging her towards safety, she looked back at the king. He'd already shifted, the massive white wolf from her dreams bursting from his skin. He threw back his head and howled, a sound of pure rage that shook the foundations of the palace. The hunt had begun. If you're still listening to this story up to this point, why don't you subscribe to this channel to continue getting impactful daily stories like this? We would be most grateful if you can do that to help boost this video to reach everyone. Thank you. Chapter 4. The safe room was a tomb of stone and steel, buried 3 levels beneath the palace. No windows. No natural light. Just torches casting shadows that danced like demons across walls carved with ancient protection runes. Elena paced the length of it for the 100th time, her wolf prowling restlessly beneath her skin. Above them, she could hear the muffled sounds of chaos, shouting, running feet, the occasional crash of something heavy hitting the floor. How long had she been down here? Hours? Days? Time had no meaning in this underground cell. You need to rest, Captain Wolf said from his position by the door. He'd insisted on guarding her personally, along with 4 of his best fighters. Wearing yourself out won't help anything. Neither will sitting still. Elena wrapped her arms around herself. What if they breach the palace? What if someone gets hurt because of me? Then they get hurt protecting their king's chosen. The captain's expression was grim but not unkind. That's what we signed up for. His chosen? Elena laughed bitterly. I'm not. The door burst open. Lucian strode in, still in his fighting leathers, covered in dust and blood that she desperately hoped wasn't his. His eyes were still rimmed with gold, his movements predatory and precise. He looked wild. Dangerous. Magnificent. Out, he ordered the guards. All of you. Captain Wolf didn't move. Your Majesty, protocol states. I don't care about protocol. Get out. The command cracked through the room with alpha force. The guards fled, Captain Wolf shooting Elena one last concerned look before closing the door behind them. Then they were alone. Are you hurt? Elena asked, moving toward him instinctively. No. Lucian's voice was rough, more growl than speech. But 12 of my people are dead. Another 20 wounded. The entire West Wing is destroyed. Elena's stomach twisted. The West Wing. My chambers. Where everyone thought you'd be during your heat. Lucian's hands clenched into fists. They used black powder. Lots of it. If you'd been in those rooms. He couldn't finish the sentence. But I wasn't. Elena reached for him, then hesitated, her hands hovering just shy of touching. I'm fine. You kept me safe. This time. He looked at her with eyes full of anguish. But Serafina got away. We found her estate abandoned, her staff gone. She'd been planning this for weeks. Maybe months. The riders will find her. Will they? Lucian turned away, slamming his fist into the stone wall hard enough to split his knuckles. She's had years to plan this. Years to poison me, to orchestrate your rejection, to position herself perfectly. And I was too blind to see it. Too focused on controlling the rage to question why it started in the first place. Lucian. She made me a monster. His voice echoed off the walls. Every person I've hurt, every life I've destroyed, that's on her. And I couldn't even protect you. I couldn't keep you safe. The self-loathing in his voice broke something in Elena. She closed the distance between them and placed her hands flat against his back, feeling the tension thrumming through him. Stop, she said quietly. This isn't your fault. Isn't it? He didn't turn around. I brought you into this. Made you my cure. Put a target on your back. You saved my life. Elena pressed her forehead between his shoulder blades. I was barely surviving before you found me. Scrubbing floors, sleeping in a room with 6 other servants, going to bed hungry more nights than not. You gave me beautiful chambers, fine clothes, enough food. You gave me protection. Protection? Lucian laughed harshly. Someone just tried to blow you up. And you stopped them. She felt his muscles coil tighter beneath her hands. Lucian, look at me. Please. He turned, and the expression on his face stole her breath. Raw need mixed with desperate restraint. His eyes were more gold than blue now, the beast so close to the surface she could feel its presence like a physical weight. You need to step back, he said through clenched teeth. My control is. I'm barely holding on. But Elena didn't step back. Couldn't. Her own wolf was rising, pressing against her skin, demanding to be closer to him. The heat that she'd thought the suppressants had dulled roared back to life, sending liquid fire through her veins. Elena. Her name came out as a warning. I can smell your heat. If you don't move right now. What? She tilted her head, exposing her throat in a gesture that was pure instinct. Pure Omega. What will you do? His control snapped like a breaking chain. Lucian moved faster than thought, backing her against the wall, his body caging hers. His face was inches from her throat, his breath hot against her skin. She felt his canines extend, pressing lightly against the curve where her neck met her shoulder. The mating gland. One bite there, and she'd be his forever. Tell me to stop, he growled. Elena, tell me to stop. But she didn't want him to stop. Her wolf was singing, her body arching into his, every nerve ending screaming for his touch. This was right. This was what she'd been waiting for. Don't stop, she whispered. His canines sank into her flesh. The pain was exquisite, a burning that exploded through her entire body. But underneath it, something else unfurled. A connection. A bond. She felt Lucian's shock, his pleasure, his desperate need mixing with her own until she couldn't tell where she ended and he began. Then he jerked back with a roar, blood on his lips. Her blood. No. No, no, no. He stumbled away from her, horror written across his face. What did I do? Gods, what did I do? Elena touched her neck. The wound was already healing, but she could feel it, the mark. The partial bond thrumming through her veins like a second heartbeat. You marked me, she said numbly. I didn't mean. I lost control. Lucian looked at his hands like they belonged to a stranger. Elena, I'm so sorry. I never meant to force this on you. The bond pulsed, and suddenly she could feel his emotions as clearly as her own. The guilt. The self-hatred. The fear that he'd become the monster he'd always dreaded. And underneath it all, a fierce possessiveness that made her wolf purr. You didn't force anything, she said, but the words felt hollow. Had she truly consented? Or had her heat made the choice for her? It's not complete, Lucian said, his voice rough. A full mate bond requires bites from both partners. What I gave you is partial. Incomplete. What does that mean? He met her eyes, and she saw the answer before he spoke. It means you can feel my emotions. My pain. When the rage takes me, you'll feel that too. Every second of it. It will hurt you, Elena. Maybe even kill you. As if summoned by his words, she felt a pulse of anger through the bond, not hers, his. It hit her like a physical blow, driving her to her knees. Lucian was beside her instantly. Breathe. Just breathe through it. It hurts, she gasped. I know. I'm sorry. I'm trying to control it. She felt him pushing the anger down, but it was like trying to contain a wildfire. The partial bond amplified everything, with none of the protection a complete bond would provide. When the wave passed, Elena looked up at him with dawning horror. How often do you feel like that? Constantly, he admitted. The poison makes the rage constant. I'm always fighting it. Every moment of every day. And now I'll feel it too. Yes. The guilt on his face was devastating. Unless we complete the bond or break it. How do we break it? You'd have to mark someone else. Form a complete bond with another alpha. His jaw clenched. Or I'd have to die. Elena's wolf snarled at both options. No. Not acceptable. There has to be another way. There isn't. Lucian stood, putting distance between them. But completing the bond isn't an option either. You'd have to bite me, Elena. Claim me as your mate. And I won't let you do that when you're in heat, when you didn't consent to any of this in the first place. So what? I just suffer through your rage until it kills me? I'll find another way to control it. The door slammed open. Captain Wolf stood there, his face grave. Your Majesty, the Council has called an emergency session. Lady Seraphina has sent word. She's demanding satisfaction. Satisfaction? Lucian's voice was deadly soft. She's invoked the mate contract, the captain said. The one your father signed before his death. She's claiming you've violated its terms by marking another, and she's demanding either the Omega's execution or a formal challenge for the right to be your mate. The room went cold. What mate contract? Elena asked. Lucian's expression was bleak. My father arranged my betrothal to Seraphina when I was 18. It was supposed to unite our pacts, strengthen political alliances. I agreed because... He shook his head. Because I was young and stupid and thought duty mattered more than happiness. But you never completed the bond. The contract states I have until my 30th birthday to complete the bond with Seraphina or choose another with the Council's approval. My birthday is in 2 weeks. He looked at Elena. But marking you without Council permission while still betrothed to Seraphina, that's a breach of contract. Her pack could declare war. So let them. Elena's wolf was still snarling, still furious at the thought of Lucian with anyone else. Her pack is the largest in the Northern Territories. They control the mountain passes, the trade routes. A war with them would devastate the realm. Lucian's hands clenched. Thousands would die. There has to be a way. There isn't. His control cracked, and she felt his rage pulse through the bond. This time, it drove her to her hands and knees, gasping. She felt his beast clawing for freedom, felt his desperate fight to contain it. "Lucian," she managed through the pain. "Let me help." "You can't." "Not without completing the bond." "Then we complete it." "No." "Why not?" She forced herself to her feet, even as another wave of his rage crashed through her. "You've already marked me. I'm already bound to you. What difference does it make?" "The difference is choice." Lucian's voice echoed off the walls. "You deserve a mate who doesn't trap you with an accidental bite during a heat cycle. You deserve someone who asks permission, who courts you properly, who gives you time to decide." "I don't want time," Elena said. "I want to not feel like I'm being torn apart every time your rage surfaces." They stared at each other across the room, the partial bond thrumming between them. Captain Wolf cleared his throat. "Your Majesty, the council is waiting." The council chamber was chaos. Nobles shouted over each other, their voices rising in waves of accusation and counter-accusation. Lady Seraphina sat in the place of honor, looking serene and perfect in a gown of ice blue, her dark hair swept up to reveal a throat unmarked by any mate bond. She smiled when she saw Elena enter behind Lucian. A smile full of venom and victory. "Ah," she said, her voice cutting through the noise. "The little Omega who thinks she can steal a king." The room fell silent. Lord Brennan, the head of the council, rose from his seat. He was an older alpha, his gray hair and lined face speaking to decades of political maneuvering. "Your Majesty, this is highly irregular. The Omega should not be present for council proceedings." "She's the subject of those proceedings," Lucian said coldly. "She has a right to hear what's said about her." "She has no rights," Seraphina said sweetly. "She's a rejected Omega with no pack, no family, no standing. She's barely more than a rogue." She stood, moving to the center of the room with practiced grace. "But I'm willing to be merciful. I'll withdraw my demand for her execution if she leaves the palace immediately and never returns." "No," Lucian said. Seraphina's eyes flashed. "Then you leave me no choice." She pulled a scroll from her sleeve and handed it to Lord Brennan. "The mate contract, signed by your father, King Aldrich, 20 years ago. It clearly states that you will take me as your mate and Luna before your 30th birthday, or face dissolution of the alliance between our packs." Lord Brennan read the scroll, his frown deepening. "This is binding, Your Majesty. Breaking this contract without council approval would be an act of war." "I'm aware." Lucian's voice was ice. "Then you understand you have two options." Seraphina moved closer to him, her hand reaching for his face. "Complete the bond with me as intended, or watch your precious Omega die slowly from the incomplete mark you gave her." Lucian caught her wrist before she could touch him. "There's a third option. Trial by combat. Elena has the right to challenge you for the mate bond." Gasps rippled through the council. "You can't be serious," Seraphina said. "She's a rejected Omega. I'm a high-born alpha. She wouldn't last 5 minutes in the ring with me." "Then you should have no problem accepting the challenge." Seraphina's smile turned cruel. "Very well. But when I kill her, you'll have no choice but to complete our bond. The contract demands it." Before Lucian could respond, the doors burst open. Castellan rushed in, his face flushed with excitement and fear. "Your Majesty. I've found something. About the Omega." He waved a stack of ancient books. "I've been researching her bloodline, trying to understand how she survived the rejection. And I found, gods, I found something impossible." "What?" Lucian demanded. "She's a Phoenix Omega." Castellan's voice shook. "An ancient bloodline, thought extinct for over 1,000 years. Their wolves don't just die during rejection, they transform. Hibernate. Wait for their true mate to reawaken them." The room erupted in shocked murmurs. Phoenix Omegas, Castellan continued, are immune to most poisons and curses. They can heal sick wolves, soothe feral beasts, and... He looked at Elena with wonder. They can only bond with celestial alphas, wolves blessed by the moon herself. Wolves like the royal bloodline. Lucian went very still. You're saying Elena was always meant to bond with someone from my family? I'm saying she was specifically meant to bond with you, Your Majesty. Castellan pulled out an ancient text, its pages yellow with age. According to the prophecy, a Phoenix Omega would be born in a time of great darkness, and she would save the celestial Alpha from corruption. She would be rejected by a false mate to awaken her true power. That's ridiculous, Seraphina said, but Elena heard the fear beneath her words. Prophecies are children's stories. Are they? Castellan looked at her with steady eyes. Then how do you explain the fact that the king's poisoning began the exact night of Elena's rejection? Or that her touch is the only thing that's ever calmed his beast? Or that she survived 3 years of exile when rejected Omegas typically die within months? Seraphina's perfect composure cracked. You're making excuses for her. She's nothing. A defective Omega who? Who orchestrated this? Elena found her voice, stepping forward. The pieces were clicking into place. You said something earlier, Lady Seraphina. You said I think I can steal the king. Not that I stole him. That I think I can. A slip of the tongue. Was it? Elena moved closer, her wolf rising despite the pain of the incomplete bond. Or did you know I could heal him? That I was the only one who could? Is that why you had Marcus reject me? Why you paid him to choose my sister? The silence that followed was deafening. Careful, Omega, Seraphina said softly. Accusations against a highborn lady require proof. Then let's find some. Lucian's voice cut through the tension. Castellan, can you test Lady Seraphina for magical residue? The kind a dark witch would leave? Your Majesty, that's an insult. It's a reasonable request, Lord Brennan interrupted. Given the circumstances. Castellan approached Seraphina with a vial of silver liquid. If you've done nothing wrong, my lady, this will prove your innocence. Seraphina backed away. I won't submit to this farce. Then you're guilty, Elena said. Something shifted in Seraphina's expression. The mask of perfect nobility cracked, revealing the darkness beneath. Guilty? She laughed, and it was nothing like her usual refined sound. It was harsh, bitter, full of years of resentment. Oh, little Omega. You have no idea. She pulled a dagger from her sleeve, obsidian blade, carved with runes that made Elena's skin crawl. Seraphina, Lucian warned, moving in front of Elena. Put down the weapon. Why? Seraphina's eyes had gone wild. So you can reject me for this nothing? This broken little wolf who was supposed to die 3 years ago. You did orchestrate it, Elena whispered. Of course I did. Seraphina's careful control shattered completely. Do you know what it's like to be betrothed to someone for 20 years, only to have them treat you like a political obligation? To know that the mate bond will never form because you're not his fated match? So you poisoned him? Lucian's voice was deadly calm. I tried to make him need me. Seraphina's hand tightened on the dagger. The Dark Witch promised that if I could drive you to the edge of Feral, make you desperate enough, you'd complete the bond with me out of necessity. The mate bond would transfer your celestial alpha power to me, and I'd finally have everything I deserved. But I kept healing him, Elena said, understanding dawning. My existence ruined your plan. You were never supposed to survive the rejection. Seraphina's gaze locked on Elena with pure hatred. Phoenix Omegas need their true mate to awaken their power. I had Marcus reject you before you could ever meet Lucian. You were supposed to die like any other rejected Omega. Alone. Forgotten. Gone. But she didn't die, Lucian said. Because I was there that night. In the grove. I gave her wolf enough strength to survive. A mistake I've been trying to correct ever since. Serafina smiled, and it was the smile of a predator. Why do you think I've been so supportive of keeping her close, Your Majesty? Every time she touches you, she weakens the poison in your system. But I've been increasing the dosage to compensate. A drop here, a sprinkle there. In your wine, your food, your bath water. She'd been poisoning him in front of them all. You're mad, Lord Brennan said. I'm practical. Serafina's grip on the dagger shifted. And I'm not finished. If I can't have you through a bond, Lucian, I'll have your crown through conquest. My pack is already marching on the capital. By dawn, this palace will be ashes, and I'll be the one ruling from the ruins. She lunged. Not at Lucian, at Elena. The dagger flashed in the torchlight, aimed straight at Elena's heart. Lucian moved to intercept, but he wasn't fast enough. Elena's wolf exploded from her skin. She shifted faster than thought, her body transforming into the silver-white wolf that had been dormant for 3 years. But she wasn't small anymore. Wasn't weak. Her phoenix blood had finally awakened, and she was magnificent. She caught Serafina's wrist in her jaws, the obsidian dagger clattering to the floor. Serafina screamed, trying to pull away, but Elena held firm. Then Lucian was there, his massive white wolf appearing beside hers. Together, they stood over the fallen enemy, their wolves in perfect sync. Through the incomplete bond, Elena felt Lucian's pride. His awe. His fierce, possessive love. Completed, his wolf seemed to say. Claim me. Make me yours. And Elena realized with crystal clarity that this was her choice. Not made in heat. Not forced by circumstance. She wanted this. Wanted him. She shifted back to human, naked and unashamed, and offered Lucian her hand. Ask me properly, she said. No more accidents. No more half measures. If we do this, we do it right. Lucian shifted, equally naked, and dropped to one knee in front of her. In front of the entire council. Elena Ashwood, he said, his voice rough with emotion. Will you complete the mate bond with me? Will you be my mate, my Luna, my equal in all things? Not because of contracts or curses, but because we choose each other. Elena's wolf sang with joy. Yes, she said. Yes, I will. She bent down and bit his shoulder, right over his heart, and felt the bond snap into place like a key turning in a lock. Complete. Perfect. Right. The rage that had plagued Lucian for 3 years simply vanished. Burned away by the phoenix fire in her blood. She felt his relief, his joy, his overwhelming love flooding through the bond. And she felt her own wolf finally, truly whole. Behind them, Serafina was being dragged away by guards, screaming promises of revenge. The council was in chaos, debating the implications of everything they'd witnessed. But Elena and Lucian only had eyes for each other. We're going to have to fight a war now, Lucian said, pulling her into his arms. Her pack won't give up easily. Then we fight, Elena replied. Together. He kissed her, deep and claiming, and through their bond, she felt his promise, always together. From now until the stars fall. Outside, the sun was rising on a new day. And for the first time in 3 years, Elena felt something she'd thought she'd lost forever. Hope. If you're still listening to this story up to this point, why don't you subscribe to this channel to continue getting impactful daily stories like this? We would be most grateful if you can do that to help boost this video to reach everyone. Thank you. Chapter 5. The war room smelled of old leather and desperation. Maps covered every surface, marked with troop movements and supply lines. Messengers came and went in a steady stream, each bringing worse news than the last. Serafina's pack had mobilized faster than anyone thought possible, 3,000 wolves, already crossing into the southern territories, burning everything in their path. Elena stood by the windows, watching the full moon rise over the palace grounds. 3 days since she'd completed the bond with Lucian. 3 days of perfect clarity, of feeling whole for the first time in her life. And 3 days of knowing war was coming because she'd chosen love over politics. The northern garrisons are holding, Captain Wolfe reported, stabbing a marker into the map. But they won't last more than a week without reinforcements. We don't have reinforcements to send. Lord Brennan's voice was grave. Half our forces are still recovering from the plague that swept through the barracks last month. And with Serafina's pack controlling the mountain passes, we can't get supplies through. Then we negotiate, said Lord Corwin, an older alpha with more concern for his own lands than the kingdom. Return Lady Serafina to her pack, dissolve the king's irregular bond with the Omega, and restore the original contract. The room fell silent. Elena felt Lucian's rage pulse through their bond before she saw his eyes flash gold. She placed a hand on his arm, letting her phoenix fire cool the anger before it could build. That's not an option, Lucian said quietly. Dangerously. Your Majesty, I understand you're fond of the girl. Fond? Lucian's laugh was harsh. She's my mate. My true mate. The bond is complete and recognized by the old laws. There is no dissolving it. The old laws also recognize political contracts, Lord Corwin pressed. Your father signed that agreement in good faith. Breaking it brings dishonor to his memory and war to our lands. Surely one Omega isn't worth thousands of lives? Elena felt the words like physical blows. One Omega. That's all she was to them. An inconvenience. A problem to be solved by removing her from the equation. Enough. She stepped forward, and several of the council members actually flinched. Her phoenix wolf was close to the surface now, lending her presence a weight that made even high-born alphas uneasy. Let's speak plainly, shall we? You want me gone. You want your king mated to Serafina, completing an alliance that will keep your precious territories safe. Elena, Lucian started, but she held up a hand. No. They need to hear this. She looked each council member in the eye. Serafina poisoned your king for 3 years. She orchestrated the death of dozens of people through his rage episodes. She paid to have me rejected and exiled. She hired a dark witch to curse the royal bloodline. And when her plan failed, she tried to murder me in front of you all. Elena's voice hardened. And yet you'd still give her what she wants? You'd still hand Lucian over to the woman who tried to destroy him? We'd be handing him to her pack, Lord Brennan said carefully. To an alliance that's kept peace in the Northern Territories for 2 decades. Lady Serafina would face justice for her crimes, of course, but the political marriage could proceed with another. No. Lucian's voice cut like a blade. There will be no political marriage. No negotiation with Serafina's pack. They march on my lands, threaten my people, and demand I break a true mate bond? He stood, and the room felt suddenly smaller. Let them come. We'll meet them on the field of battle. Your Majesty, that's suicide. Then I'll die with my honor intact and my true mate at my side. Lucian looked at Elena, and she felt his love through the bond like sunlight. I've been controlled by politics, duty, and poison for too long. No more. From now on, I make my own choices. The council erupted in argument. Some supported their king. Others called him a fool. Lord Corwin actually suggested invoking the ancient right of challenge, removing a king deemed unfit to rule. Elena felt her wolf snarl. These pompous men who'd sat by while Lucian suffered, who'd done nothing while he was slowly poisoned, who'd failed to protect their king, now they wanted to remove him for finally choosing himself. Enough, she said quietly. The words shouldn't have carried over the shouting. But it did. Her phoenix fire pulsed through the room, and suddenly every wolf present felt the weight of her bloodline pressing against them. The arguments died. You want a solution? Elena continued. Then here's one. The full moon is tonight. Serafina claimed the king's beast is too dangerous, too feral to be controlled. She used that fear to manipulate you all. She looked at Lucian. So let's prove her wrong. Let the king shift under the full moon, in front of the entire court. Let them see that the bond has healed him. That he's in control. Elena, that's too dangerous, Castellan protested. The full moon amplifies everything. Even with the bond, there's a chance. There's always a chance, Elena interrupted. But if we don't prove Lucian is healed, the council will never stop questioning the bond. They'll always wonder if Serafina was right. If he's too dangerous. Too unstable. She was right, and they all knew it. Very well, Lucian said. Tonight, during the full moon gathering, I'll shift. And you'll all see that I'm no longer the beast you feared. Lord Brennan looked ill. Your Majesty, if you lose control. Then Elena will stop me. Lucian's hand found hers. She's the only one who ever could. The full moon gathering was held in the great courtyard, under open sky where all wolves could feel the moon's pull. Hundreds of pack members filled the space, nobles in their finery, guards in formation, servants clustered near the walls. And at the center of it all, a raised platform where the king would shift. Elena stood beside the platform, her heart hammering. Through the bond, she felt Lucian's determination. His fear. His absolute trust in her. If something goes wrong, he'd said earlier, alone in their chambers, if I lose control, you run. You shift and you run, and you don't look back. I'm not leaving you, she'd replied. Whatever happens, we face it together. Now, as the moon climbed higher, she wondered if that promise had been foolish. Lady Serafina stood in the crowd, flanked by guards. She'd been stripped of her title and lands, awaiting trial for her crimes. But she'd invoked her right to witness the gathering, and the council had reluctantly agreed. She smiled at Elena. A smile full of secrets. Something was wrong. Lucian, Elena said quietly. Don't do this. I have a bad feeling. It's too late. He stepped onto the platform. The court needs to see. He began to shift, and the crowd fell silent. It should have been beautiful, the transformation of a celestial alpha under the full moon. His body should have flowed seamlessly from man to wolf, controlled and precise. Instead, Lucian screamed. His body convulsed, the shift going wrong. His bones cracked audibly, reforming at unnatural angles. His eyes flashed not gold, but red, the sign of a wolf gone completely feral. No. Elena lunged for the platform, but Captain Wolf caught her arm. Stay back. He's. Lucian's beast erupted from his skin, but it was wrong. Too large. Too wild. Foam flecked its muzzle, and those red eyes held no recognition. No humanity. The poison. Somehow, he'd been dosed again. Serafina's laugh rang out across the courtyard. Did you really think I'd let my life's work crumble so easily? She pulled a vial from her dress, the same dark liquid. One last gift, delivered with his wine at dinner. Enough poison to turn even a bonded king feral under the full moon. You poisoned him again? Elena's voice was raw with fury. Even after everything. Especially after everything. Serafina's eyes glittered with madness. If I can't have him, no one can. Let them watch their precious king tear apart his own court. Let them see what a monster he truly is. The feral Lucian leaped from the platform. Chaos erupted. Wolves scattered. Guards formed lines, weapons drawn. But no one wanted to be the one to strike down their king. The beast that had been Lucian crashed through the guards like they were paper. His claws found flesh. Blood sprayed. Screams echoed off the palace walls. Someone stop him. Lord Brennan shouted. How? Captain Wolf's sword trembled in his hand. How do we stop a celestial alpha in full feral rage? They couldn't. Elena knew that. Only she could reach him. Only she could. A hand grabbed her arm. She spun to find Marcus Blackwood standing there, his face pale with terror and determination. Elena, please. His voice cracked. This is your chance. While he's feral, before he kills everyone, reject him. Break the bond. It's the only way to stop him without death. She stared at him. Are you insane? I'm trying to save you. Marcus's grip tightened. Don't you see? This is what I was trying to prevent 3 years ago. This destruction. This death. The witch told me, if you bonded with him, it would end in blood and fire. She was right. The witch was working with Serafina, Elena snarled. She lied to you. Did she? Marcus gestured to the carnage. Look around. He's killing his own people. This is the disaster she predicted. His eyes pleaded. Reject him, Elena. Come back to the Ashwood Pack. Come back to me. I never stopped loving you. I rejected you to save you, but I can fix it now. We can. Elena's fist connected with his jaw. Marcus stumbled back, shocked. Elena. You rejected me to save yourself, she said coldly. To save your pack's finances. To keep your precious alpha position. Don't you dare pretend it was noble. I did love you. Not enough. She pulled away from him. And I don't love you anymore. I love him. She looked at the beast tearing through the courtyard, and her heart ached. I love him, and I'm going to save him. You'll die trying. Then I die. Elena reached for her wolf. For the phoenix fire that had been building inside her since the bond completed. She'd been suppressing it, afraid of its power, afraid of what it meant to be something more than just an Omega. But Lucian needed her. Her real mate. Her true mate. And she would not fail him. The shift took her like wildfire. Her body exploded into light, silver and white and burning gold. When the light faded, she stood on 4 legs, and the entire courtyard gasped. She wasn't small. Wasn't weak. Her wolf was nearly as large as Lucian's, with a coat that seemed to glow under the moonlight. Silver white with flames of gold running through it like veins of fire. Her eyes were pure molten amber, and power radiated from her in waves that made even the strongest alphas take a step back. A Phoenix Omega in her full glory. She howled, and the sound carried across the entire kingdom. A call to her mate. A promise. I'm here. I'm not leaving. Come back to me. The feral Lucian turned, and those red eyes locked on her. He snarled, seeing only prey. Only something to destroy. He charged. Elena didn't run. She stood her ground as a wolf twice her size barreled toward her with murder in his eyes. Through the bond, she pushed every ounce of love, trust, and phoenix fire she possessed. Remember, she commanded. Remember who you are. Remember us. He struck her like a battering ram, and they went down in a tangle of teeth and claws. Pain exploded through her side where his fangs found purchase. But Elena didn't fight back. She just held him, her wolf wrapping around his, and pushed harder through the bond. Remember the grove. Remember finding me dying. Remember choosing me over duty, over politics, over everything. A flash of memory, not hers. His. A small silver wolf, collapsed and bleeding. The scent of rejection and death. An instinctive need to help, to save, to protect. Remember, Elena pressed. Remember saving me. Another memory surfaced, older this time. Much older. A child running through the forest, laughing. A girl with amber eyes and wild hair, no more than 6 years old. Come on. The creek is this way. Wait. A boy's voice, slightly older. My mother said not to go too far from the guards. Your mother worries too much, Lucian. They'd played by the creek all afternoon, the young prince and the Omega child from a visiting pack. When rogues attacked at sunset, the boy had shifted, his first transformation, and fought them off despite his inexperience. He'd been wounded, bleeding from a dozen cuts. The little girl had placed her hands on his injuries, and they'd glowed silver. The wounds had closed. Healed. How did you do that? The boy had asked, awed. I don't know, the girl had replied. But I'm glad it worked. I couldn't let anything happen to you. Why not? She'd smiled, gap-toothed and bright. Because you're important. I can feel it. We're going to find each other again someday. Promise? Promise. Elena gasped as the memory flooded through both their minds. She knew that creek. Knew that day. Her parents had taken her to the capital when she was 6, part of some political visit she barely remembered. But she remembered the boy. The prince with kind eyes who'd played with her when the other noble children had refused. She'd forgotten. They'd both forgotten. But their wolves hadn't. Through the bond, she felt the exact moment Lucian's consciousness fought back to the surface. The red in his eyes flickered, fighting with gold, then blue. Elena, his voice in her mind was weak but present. The poison. It's too strong. I can't. Then let me help. She pushed all her phoenix fire through the bond, and this time, instead of just neutralizing the poison, she went deeper. Into his bloodstream. Into his very cells. She burned it all away. The phoenix fire consumed the poison like kindling, leaving nothing but ash. But it did more than that. It merged their consciousness, their wolves becoming one in a way that went beyond any normal mate bond. She could see through his eyes. Feel through his senses. And he could do the same with her. This wasn't just a mate bond. This was a paired bond, the rarest, most powerful connection between wolves. The kind that only appeared once in a generation. The kind that could shake kingdoms. The feral rage drained from Lucian like water. His body relaxed, the wrongness leaving his form. When he pulled back to look at her, his eyes were clear blue. Human. Whole. I remember, he said through their connection. The creek. You healed me even then. We've been bonded since childhood, Elena realized with wonder. That's why the rejection nearly destroyed my wolf. It wasn't just rejecting Marcus, it was rejecting a bond that had been forming with you for over a decade. The witch knew. Lucian's anger pulsed through their connection. That's why they had to separate us before we could recognize each other as adults. Why they waited until right before I went to the Ashwood territory to finalize the poison plan. They'd been pawns in a game much larger than they'd realized. But no more. Elena and Lucian rose together, their wolves moving in perfect synchronization. They turned as one to face Serafina, and the woman actually stumbled backward. Impossible, she whispered. A paired bond? Those are myths. Show them, Elena said through their connection. Show them what we are together. They howled in unison, and the sound was like nothing the court had ever heard. Two voices merged into one, carrying the weight of both Celestial Alpha and Phoenix Omega power. The courtyard exploded with silver gold light. Every wolf present felt it, the paired bond made manifest. It radiated from Elena and Lucian like a physical force, washing over the crowd. Those who'd been injured by the feral Lucian felt their wounds close. Those who'd been sick felt strength return. And Serafina's dark magic, the remnants of her poisonous curse, burned away like fog in sunlight. The entire court witnessed the truth, their king was healed. Not just controlled, but truly whole. And it was the defective Omega who'd saved him. When the light faded, Elena and Lucian shifted back to human form. Someone threw cloaks over them, but Elena barely noticed. She was focused on Serafina, who'd collapsed to her knees, her face gray with defeat. It's over, Lucian said quietly. Your conspiracy, your plots, your poisoned lies, it's all over. You don't understand, Serafina said, but her voice held no fight. The witch. The one who gave me the poison. She didn't do it for gold or power. She did it because of the prophecy. What prophecy? Elena demanded. The Phoenix Omega, Serafina laughed bitterly. The ancient texts say when one awakens, she'll either save the realm or destroy it. The witch was trying to prevent the destruction. She said your bloodline was too dangerous, that it had to be exterminated before. Before what? Lucian's voice was deadly soft. Before the Phoenix Omega came into her full power and remembered what her ancestors did. Serafina looked at Elena with something like pity. Your bloodline didn't just heal, little Omega. They conquered. They controlled. 1,000 years ago, a Phoenix Omega brought an entire kingdom to its knees, enslaving thousands of wolves to her will. Elena's blood ran cold. You're lying, she said. Trying to turn the court against me. Am I? Serafina pulled an ancient scroll from her dress. Somehow she'd kept it hidden even through her arrest. She threw it at Lucian's feet. Read it yourself. The Phoenix bloodline was feared for a reason. They called your ancestor the Silver Tyrant. She bonded with a celestial alpha, just like you, and their paired bond became a weapon. They ruled for 50 years through terror and blood. Lord Brennan picked up the scroll with shaking hands. His face went pale as he read. It's true. It's all documented in the old histories. The Phoenix Omega Syria and her mate King Theron. He swallowed hard. They used the paired bond to control other wolves. Force them into submission. Anyone who resisted was burned alive by Phoenix fire. The courtyard erupted in frightened murmurs. Elena felt their fear like a physical thing. Felt them looking at her differently now. Not with awe, but with terror. I'm not her, Elena said, her voice strong despite the doubt creeping in. I'm not my ancestor. I would never. Wouldn't you? Serafina's laugh was broken. The power is in your blood. In your bond. How long before the temptation becomes too great? How long before you and your king decide that ruling through love isn't enough? That submission would be so much easier. Never, Lucian said firmly. He took Elena's hand, and she felt his absolute conviction through the bond. We would never abuse this power. So you say now. Lord Corwin had drawn his sword. But history shows us what happens when a Phoenix Omega comes into her full strength. Perhaps the witch was right. Perhaps this bloodline should have stayed extinct. Other swords were being drawn now. Guards looking uncertain. Nobles backing away. Are you threatening my mate? Lucian's voice dropped to a growl. We're protecting the realm, Lord Corwin said. As is our duty. Elena felt her phoenix fire rising, defensive and angry. It would be so easy to let it loose. To burn away everyone who threatened them. To force them to submit, to acknowledge her power, to... No. She pushed the dark thoughts away, horrified. Was this how it had started for her ancestor? With justified anger? With self-defense? Stand down, she said quietly. All of you. Lower your weapons. Why should we? Lord Corwin demanded. Because if I wanted to hurt you, you'd already be ash. Elena let just a flicker of phoenix fire dance across her skin, and the nobles flinched. But I don't want that. I don't want control or submission or any of the things my ancestor chose. She looked at Lucian. I just want the freedom to love my mate and live my life. That's all I've ever wanted. Words, Lord Corwin spat. Pretty words that mean nothing when. Then let me prove it. Elena released Lucian's hand and stepped forward, alone. You want assurance I won't become a tyrant? Then I'll give you one. I demand equal standing with my mate, not as an Omega subject, but as his true queen. I demand a voice on this council, a vote in decisions that affect the realm. She raised her chin. And in return, I vow on my phoenix blood that I will never use the paired bond to force submission from any wolf. I will never burn those who disagree with me. I will rule with justice, not fear. The courtyard fell silent. You want to be queen? Lord Brennan asked carefully. Not just Luna, but equal ruler? Yes. Elena's voice didn't waver. If I'm dangerous enough to fear, I'm powerful enough to rule. So give me the crown, give me the responsibility, and give me the choice to prove I'm not my ancestor. It was a gamble. A massive one. But it was the only way forward she could see. Lucian stepped up beside her. Then I publicly dissolve all political mate contracts. All obligations to other pacts through marriage alliances. Elena is my mate, my queen, my equal in all things. Anyone who challenges that challenges me. You'll start a war, Lord Corwin warned. Then we fight it. Together. Lucian looked at Elena with such love it made her chest ache. On her terms. As equals. The council exchanged glances. Castellan stepped forward, his healer's robes swirling. I've studied the old texts, he said quietly. There's a ritual. An ancient one, used when a Phoenix Omega took a throne. It would bind her vow into her very blood, make it impossible for her to break without destroying herself. If Lady Elena submitted to such a ritual, it would prove her intentions beyond doubt. What kind of ritual? Elena asked. A painful one, Castellan admitted. It would require you to burn away part of your own phoenix fire, to limit your power in exchange for the crown. You'd still be formidable, still able to heal and protect. But you'd never be able to enslave wolves through the paired bond. The power would simply be gone. Give up part of her power. Willingly limit herself to prove she wouldn't become a monster. No, Lucian said immediately. Elena, you don't have to. Yes, I do. She squeezed his hand. If it means peace. If it means we can rule together without fear. Then yes, I'll do it. It will hurt, Castellan warned. More than anything you've ever experienced. I've been rejected by my fated mate, exiled from my pack, and had my wolf dormant for 3 years. Elena's smile was grim. I can handle pain. The ritual took place that night, under the full moon that had witnessed so much chaos. Elena knelt in the center of a circle of fire, ancient runes carved into the stone around her. Lucian wanted to be beside her, but the ritual required she face it alone. When I begin, Castellan said gravely, you must hold your phoenix form and consciously burn away the threads of power that would allow domination. It will feel like cutting away part of your soul. I understand. And Lady Elena? The old healer's eyes were kind. Once this is done, it cannot be undone. Are you certain? She looked at Lucian, standing at the edge of the circle, his face full of pride and fear and love. Through their bond, she felt his support. His unwavering faith. I'm certain, she said. Castellan began to chant in the old language. The runes flared to life. And Elena shifted, her silver-white wolf appearing in the circle of flames. Then the pain began. It felt like being rejected all over again, that tearing sensation of something essential being ripped away. But this time, she was doing it willingly. Taking the dark, dominating threads of her phoenix power and burning them to ash. She howled, and through the bond, she felt Lucian's answering cry. Felt him trying to take some of the pain, to shoulder it with her. Let me help, he begged through their connection. You are helping, she replied. Just by being here. Just by loving me. The burning continued. Minutes that felt like hours. Hours that felt like days. But slowly, carefully, she found the threads that Castellan had described, the ones that would let her force submission, control other wolves, dominate through the paired bond. And she set them on fire. Her phoenix flames consumed that part of her power, reducing it to nothing. She felt it go, felt herself become less in some fundamental way. But also more. Because this was her choice. Her sacrifice. Her proof that she would never become the Silver Tyrant. When the ritual ended, Elena collapsed in the center of the circle, human once more. Lucian was there instantly, gathering her into his arms. It's done, Castellan said quietly. The vow is bound. She can never use the paired bond for domination. On pain of her own death. The council, watching from the edges, slowly knelt. One by one, they acknowledged her sacrifice. Her worthiness. "All hail Queen Elena," Lord Brennan said, his voice carrying across the courtyard. First of the Phoenix bloodline to willingly limit her power for the good of the realm. The chant was picked up by others. "All hail Queen Elena. All hail the Phoenix Queen." In Lucian's arms, Elena wept. Not from pain, though her body ached. But from relief. From the knowledge that she'd chosen love over power, peace over fear. She'd proven she wasn't her ancestor. She'd proven she was something better. The trial of Lady Seraphina took 3 days. Evidence was presented. Witnesses testified. The Dark Witch's conspiracy was laid bare for all to see. In the end, the council had no choice but to find her guilty of treason, attempted murder, and crimes against the crown. But her sentence was left deliberately ambiguous. "You will be exiled," Lord Brennan pronounced. "Stripped of title, lands, and pack. You will wander as a rogue until such time as you can prove yourself redeemed." He paused. "Or until judgment finds you in another form." It was a death sentence, really. Rogues rarely survived long. But it left the door open for future stories, future conflicts. As the guards led Seraphina away, she caught Elena's eye. "This isn't over," she mouthed. Perhaps it wasn't. But for now, Elena had won. Marcus Blackwood left the capital the next morning, his pregnant maid in tow. But before he departed, he requested a private audience with Elena. They met in the rose gardens, far from prying ears. "I came to apologize," Marcus said without preamble. "For everything. For the rejection. For being weak. For not fighting harder for you." "It doesn't matter anymore," Elena said honestly. "I'm not angry. I'm grateful, actually. If you hadn't rejected me, I never would have found Lucian. Never would have discovered my true power. Then maybe it all worked out the way it was supposed to." Marcus managed a weak smile. "But Elena, there's something you need to know. Something the witch told me before she vanished." Elena's stomach tightened. "What?" The Phoenix bloodline wasn't just feared because of the Silver Tyrant. It was feared because of what Phoenix Omegas represent. Marcus looked around nervously, as if the very trees might be listening. "According to the old prophecies, there's a reason your bloodline appears only once every 1,000 years. You're not just healers or rulers. You're keys." "Keys to what?" "To the sleeping magic. The old power that was locked away when the wolves first came to this realm." Marcus's voice dropped to a whisper. "The witch said that when a Phoenix Omega comes into her full power and completes a paired bond with a Celestial Alpha, she unlocks the first seal. There are 7 seals total. And when all 7 are broken, what happens? The old magic returns. Along with everything that was sealed away with it." Marcus met her eyes. "The witch didn't act alone, Elena. She was part of a group. An ancient order dedicated to keeping the seals intact. They've been working for centuries to prevent Phoenix Omegas from awakening. Because they think I'll destroy the world? Because they think you'll change it?" Marcus glanced over his shoulder again. "The sealed magic isn't evil. It's just powerful. Unpredictable. And there are those who've thrived in the current order, who don't want things to change. Who'll do anything to keep the seals locked. So you're saying more people will come for me? More conspiracies. More attempts on my life. I'm saying your wolf isn't just rare, Elena. It's the key to an ancient prophecy that some would kill to prevent, and others would die to fulfill." Marcus started to leave, then paused. "Watch your back, Your Majesty. And trust no one who's too interested in the old stories. They're not just stories anymore." He left, and Elena stood alone in the roses, processing his warning. She should tell Lucian. Should alert the council. But first, she needed to understand what she'd truly awakened when she completed the paired bond. Epilogue. 6 months later, the realm was at peace. Seraphina's pack had sued for mercy, their forces scattered and broken. The northern territories had been redistributed fairly. And Queen Elena had proven herself a wise, just ruler, her voice on the council respected, her judgment sound. She stood on the palace balcony, watching the sunset paint the sky gold and pink. Lucian's arms wrapped around her from behind, his chin resting on her shoulder. "What are you thinking about?" he asked through their bond. "Marcus's warning," she admitted. "About the seals. The sleeping magic. Do you think it's true? Does it matter?" Lucian turned her to face him. "Whatever comes, we'll face it together." Together, Elena agreed, rising on her toes to kiss him. Through their paired bond, she felt his love, his desire, his absolute commitment. And she felt her own emotions reflected back, magnified, perfected. This was what she'd been waiting for. Not just a mate, but an equal. A partner. A love that transcended politics and power and ancient prophecies. "I have something to tell you," she said when the kiss ended. "What?" Castellan confirmed it this morning. Elena placed his hand over her still flat stomach. "We're going to have a child." Lucian's eyes went wide. Then he laughed, loud and joyous, spinning her around until she was dizzy. "A child." He set her down gently, reverently. "Our child. Half Celestial Alpha, half Phoenix Omega." Elena's smile was radiant. "The realm has no idea what's coming. Should we be worried?" "Probably." She kissed him again. "But right now?" "Right now, I just want to be happy." And she was. Truly, completely happy. Whatever ancient prophecies awaited them, whatever sealed magic threatened to wake, whatever enemies lurked in the shadows, it would all wait. For now, there was just this, a king and his queen, bonded souls standing against the sunset, ready to face whatever the future held. Together. Always together. The end. Of Book 1. In the shadows of the palace, a hooded figure watched the royal couple on their balcony. They traced a finger over an ancient seal carved into stone, one of 7 scattered across the realm. The first seal had indeed cracked when the Phoenix Omega awakened. 6 more to go. The figure smiled and disappeared into the darkness, already planning the next move in a game that had been playing for 1,000 years. The Phoenix Queen had chosen love. Now she would learn the cost of that choice. Thank you for watching this video. Subscribe, like and share this video to continue listening to this type of story daily and also, to appreciate this community too. I would like to hear your wonderful opinion about this story. Please comment below.